Welcome back to Continental Club. Yes, as you can see, Chris Hamill's not here. I'm joined by the one, the only, Patrick Van Straten, and some would say an improvement, Michael McCubbin.
Improvement on what?
Last day of that stash as well, mate.
It is indeed, yeah.
Shave it off tomorrow.
Is it really?
I don't know, I might actually keep it.
It's the 1st of December.
It is, yeah.
It does suit you.
Yeah, I think.
I've got used to it, I think.
You look like a bandito.
Yeah, I like it when when I shave like all around here, but when the stubble starts to grow out, it starts looking a bit rank.
Wow.
So
Behind the
just a
curtain.
There you go, that's enough bearded
bit
talk.
yeah.
From beards to Italians. And we go to AC Milan, who sacked Montella last week after a 0-0 draw at home against Torino. At the moment, they have 20 points from 14 games in Serie A and are 7th place. They finished 6th last season and have only won 10 of their first 12 matches and won 2 of their last 10 in Serie A under Montella. Now, they haven't scored a home goal since September the 22nd.
That seems bad.
That's over 2 months ago. It's mental.
I think it's four home games, isn't it? That which is I think one of their worst run in over 10 years.
Well, on top of that, considering they spent nearly 200 million euros in the summer, it's not a good start.
No.
Like, Patrick? What do you think the main issue there is at AC Milan at the moment?
I think it's probably bedding in all those players. Like they bought a bunch of players, and they bought some really good players, but I don't know if they necessarily bought them that kind of strategically. Like it seems like players like Hakan Çalhanoğlu, who I think we all think is a decent player.
100%.
Like he doesn't seem to really have a place in this squad. Andre Silva's been scoring in Europe, but hasn't been doing it in Serie A. It just seems like they're chopping and changing, and the problem is once the narrative becomes that the manager's under pressure, managers feel like they have to start switching things around desperately to try and get things to work. Whereas actually what would be best for this squad is to stick with the same lineup, the same formation, and just kind of, wait it out. I mean, basically, they got 20 points from 14. It's not actually terrible.
Not that bad at all.
But the issue is how good the teams are above them.
Yes.
So they're 6 points behind Lazio, who are in the place above them. I think they're 9 points behind, Roma, who are in the place above that. And so it already looks like they're basically off the Champions League places. And this 200 million euro investment was pretty much on the understanding that Serie A is going from 3 Champions League places to 4 Champions League places. And they were like, we need to be that 4th team. But now Inter have taken off under Spalletti. Roma are okay, at the very least, under Eusebio Di Francesco. And Lazio are having an amazing season. So, I mean, I don't know. I think consistency is the thing for Milan. And to be honest, when I look at it, I don't really see a manager who's going to come along and just like bridge that gap. Like there are managers who might be better, but Montella's a good manager. It's hard to figure out how they redress that balance at this point of the season.
Well, my biggest issue was, like, as you said, the new players. You can't go from a starting 11 of last season to then introducing 7 or 8 new players and think you're going to be top of the league. But I think you mentioned earlier, Michael, about Chelsea.
Yeah.
What are your opinions on that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was just thinking. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, let us know in the comments below if you have any other examples. But I can only think of Chelsea in my lifetime as a club who had a huge financial takeover, did a big overhaul of the squad over one summer, and instantly got positive results. I think if you look back to when Man City got taken over and signed Robinho and whatnot, they were battling relegation for the first 6 months of that whole period. Obviously, eventually did slowly started to make progress, but it was far from simple for them. And yeah, look at Everton this season as well. Like I think it's the same sort of thing. They've not made the wisest transfers, but nevertheless have spent a lot of money. And yeah, have a team which haven't played together much.
So what you're saying is AC Milan fans shouldn't be worried, and that give it time.
When you look at that number, that 200 million euros, it sounds like, oh, well, they've spent more than any other team in Serie A, therefore they should be doing better. But the thing is, when you look at the squad isn't better than Napoli's.
No,
it isn't better than Juve. They've had to spend that to get the squad even in touching distance of those squads. So therefore, he can't be tagged with this 200 million euro figure because he's still got a squad that's like maybe at best competitive with those sides. And that's the way you've got to look at it, talent on the field. Same with Everton. Like, look, Koeman, Steve Walsh, all those guys have to take responsibility for how they spent that money. But when you look at the squad, you don't exactly see a team that should be in the top 4.
Not at all.
Like they've just been trying to build for the future. I completely agree with Cohen. Basically, this is a failure of nerve from the owners. They should have said, we're going to wait it out, we're going to give you time to develop, which he did at Fiorentina before, and we'll see how it goes. But instead, they've just basically tagged out. Though, if they get Ancelotti in, you can sort of understand it. That's basically what they need. They need a competent, steady hand who's going to develop the players, and that is what Ancelotti will do. But again, when you look at the managerial talent at the teams above them, except for maybe Eusebio Di Francesco at Roma, I think that it's pretty much better, or at least as good with better talent. And so, I don't know. I think probably Champions League for this season has gone via a spectacular collapse from two of the teams above them, and I think they should be thinking about next season and the season after that.
Okay, but what do you guys think? How are AC Milan going to fare this season? Let us know in the comments below. We move on to our next question, and this one comes from @LewisPang on Twitter, and he asks, are Arsenal preparing for life after Arsene Wenger, and what do they need to do? Now, Arsenal have just acquired Raul Senelli. Michael, tell us a bit more about him.
Well, he's taking over as head of football relations at Arsenal, which is a funny title. Never heard it before. But I think we were just discussing before that probably what this means is he's actually going to become Arsenal's kind of chief transfer negotiator. That was kind of what his position was at Barcelona. Yeah, I don't know too much in depth about this guy, but I mean, hiring someone who's worked at Barcelona for the last 14 years seems like a pretty positive move on Arsenal's part. It will probably be interesting for Sanyehi as well to go from a club like Barcelona, which have kind of, undeniable pulling power when it comes to transfers. Not necessarily the biggest riches, but in terms of the stature of the club on the world stage, always an attractive option for Europe's best players. Going to Arsenal, who are capable of attracting some great players, but not necessarily when they're at their peak, or in a kind of sense of say Luis Suarez when he left Liverpool and whatnot.
Well, that's not the only thing they've done as well. They've also hired Borussia Dortmund's head scout, Sven Mislintat, last week, and apparently he's one of the best talent spotters in Europe alone. He helped identify Lewandowski, Kagawa, Aubameyang, Guerrero, Dembele. Now, this does mean Thomas Tuchel is very unlikely to join Arsenal if Arsene Wenger leaves, because last year they had a very public spat. But, Pato, what's your whole take on this? Do Arsenal need this, and are they preparing for life after Arsene Wenger now?
Yeah, they definitely need this, and they are preparing for life after Arsene Wenger. I mean, they were doing that last season as well, when they weren't sure he was going to renew his contract. Basically, it seems like they were interviewing potential managerial candidates and looking at backroom staff. At the moment, Arsene runs the first team. He's a manager, he's a coach, he's also pretty much director of football. He does all this stuff. He sometimes gets involved in contracts. It's ridiculous. It's not really workable in the modern day. You have to have other people do those jobs because there's just too much information for one guy to absorb. So Arsenal seem to be hiring specialists. Now, we don't really know how good Sanyehi is. McCubbin says, he's had some advantages as a transfer negotiator at Barcelona. Plus, Barcelona have done some terrible transfer work. I'm not sure that's necessarily down to the negotiator. It's more down to talent identification. So you hope Mislintat would help with that. And he seems to be excellent. Dortmund have blocked him leaving a bunch of times. They blocked him leaving to Bayern, who came in for him twice, wanting to replace their head scout with him, which is a pretty good seal of approval to have. I think that time will tell whether Arsenal are going to get in a director of football as well.
Well, that's the one thing Wenger doesn't want, isn't it?
It's true, but I think he's going at the end of the season.
Oh, okay.
He signed a 2-year contract in the summer. But what he has to do this summer is either extend that contract or leave.
Oh, really?
He can't. Well, he said, I can't go into another season again with uncertainty about what I'm doing at the end of the season, right?
Okay.
He said that already. So he can't do next year what he did last year. And I also don't think he can announce at the end of this season that he's leaving at the end of the following season, because who is going to come and join Arsenal knowing the manager who's signing them is leaving them in a year? That makes absolutely no sense to me. So I think he's either got to extend his contract or leave, and I think the more obvious option there is to leave, given the moves Arsenal are making. I think that if they don't get a director of football, it's possible Mislintat will have a sort of hybrid role because I don't see why he'd leave Dortmund, where he was kind of head of scouting, head of technical recruitment or whatever, to come to Arsenal and do the same job. That's a lateral move. It doesn't make sense. It only makes sense if he's going to have more responsibility. So overall, I think this is good stuff. This is, the kind of intelligent stuff you'd expect a club to do. It's certainly better transition planning than, say, Man United did.
Yes.
When Ferguson left, and that was a similar situation. You had this omnipotent figure who had his finger in every pie at the club, and you needed really to disperse that power through a bunch of specialists, and they didn't quite do that.
Didn't quite work out.
And they lost David Gill
as
at
well.
the same
Yeah.
time, which was a big loss.
Yeah.
So it's good that Arsenal have basically got some succession planning in place. I think what they need to do is really nail the managerial appointment. That's the next
the key
thing.
thing.
Tuchel would have been the obvious candidate. He'd have been perfect. In the absence of Tuchel, I start to worry a little bit about who it would be. Simeone's a great manager. Arsenal would be lucky to have him if they could entice him, though he's extended his contract. But he would require a massive squad overhaul. And what you really want is somebody who can come and get the best out of the squad now, like a Conte type, and then improve the squad in future. I mean, Conte would have been perfect, Spalletti would have been good, Tuchel would be ideal, like I said. After that, I think we start to get into the realms of Jardim. I don't think we get Allegri, and I don't particularly want him. Sarri, I don't think we get, but he'd be amazing. I start to think it's going to be somebody like Luis Enrique, which would be okay.
Be interesting,
but I'm not sure it would bridge the gap between us and the rest of the top six at the moment. Like, you look at the managerial talent among the top six sides, and it is incredible. It's the best in the world. And I don't know, if Arsenal can't get Tuchel, I don't know who they can get who's going to make that gap easier to bridge. But at least they're doing some stuff behind the scenes.
What do you guys think? Who will be Arsenal's next manager? Vote in the poll above McCubbin's head and let us know. We move on to our final question, and this one comes from @MainRody, and he asks, what do you think of Justin Kluivert going to Barcelona? Now, according to Mundo Deportivo, he is in talks ahead of a summer move to the Catalan club. Now, on top of that, Arsene Wenger is interested, and Juventus are also interested by taking him for this season and loaning him back. And then Ajax are apparently wanting 40 million euros. But according to Kluivert, he said, I want to stay at Ajax, but I don't know what will happen in my future. Patrick, thoughts? What do you think of him?
He seems like a good, promising young player. Ajax have a couple of these every season.
Yeah, true.
They've got David Neres this season as well, who I actually think is possibly a better prospect. Like, Kluivert's good.
Still very young.
He certainly looks good. I think he's got 3 goals, 2 assists this season, which actually isn't that many in the Eredivisie, but it's good. It's solid. He is extremely young, like you said. I don't know. If I were Barcelona, I think I could spend 40 million euros better. I think they need a central midfielder. I think they probably are going to need a left back in the near future. Like, I don't really. This doesn't quite compute for me, because when everyone's fit, they've got a great front three. They've got Suarez, they've got Messi, they've got Dembele. Now, Suarez will need to be replaced at some point because he is getting on. If Messi's going to move back into the Iniesta role in midfield, they will need an attacker. But an 18-year-old from Ajax, is he going to be ready to go straight into that Barca first team? I don't really know that he is. And Barca, while they do have money, they don't have enough to set a £40 million player on the bench.
Yeah, true. Michael, what are you thinking on it?
I don't know, I just feel like they have to sign someone a bit more proven in order to justify spending a lot of money. When Messi's been injured over the last couple of seasons, at points they've often floundered a little bit, kind of struggled for creativity. But maybe that's not necessarily in the wide areas where they need to strengthen. Maybe they need more creativity from midfield. In which case, they want to be spending more money on say, I think we were discussing on Sunday Vibes last week, someone like De Bruyne or Pogba or Verratti or Hervé, which in itself, is a bit of a long shot considering Barcelona's situation at the moment. But I don't know. It does seem like a weird one. And let's remember, this is Mundo Deportivo doing this, and they love to stir up anything.
Well, I was thinking maybe if they're after a young forward, why did they not go in for, say, Kylian Mbappe last season instead of Dembele? He's proven this season at PSG, he's still amazing. It wasn't just a one-season wonder, and he's going to only improve considering he's so young at the moment. But then, why not spend all that money instead of on Dembele, who, don't get me wrong, is great, but I don't think he's quite Mbappe. But why not spend all of that on Mbappe?
I feel like
I think it is.
Yeah, I think he, in some ways, Dembele suits Barcelona more.
Really?
Because I mean, Mbappe, I don't know, even PSG Dembele might have suited more. I think.
Really? Okay.
I think Mbappe worked. I don't know. Like, Mbappe is, for me, if I signed Mbappe, I kind of want him to be the main man, and he was never going to be the main man at either PSG or Barcelona. Although he's obviously very young, like, I don't know, that's not necessarily the point of view that a lot of people would have. But sorry?
You can craft him into what you want at the moment. If you want him to be a right winger or a striker, do you not think? He's so quick, he's blistering.
I agree that there's a position in the squad for him. Like, if they played him basically on the left, played Messi on the right, played Suarez through the middle, then after a few years, as Suarez got on, they can move Mbappe into the middle and buy a left winger. But I kind of agree. Like, I think Dembele is more of a like for like replacement for Neymar than Mbappe is. Like, he's more of a creator from the wide position. He can beat guys out there. Like, Mbappe doesn't want to do that. He wants to get into the box and score. And Barcelona don't have an issue with players getting into the box to score. What they need is players who can link the midfield and the attack.
Yeah, okay.
And Dembele is better at that than Mbappe.
Okay, well, what do you guys think? Are Barcelona in desperate need for a central midfielder, or can they spend 40 million euros on someone like Kluivert and have Iniesta for another season? Let us know what you think in the comments below. So that was Continental Club. Thank you for your questions. Chris Hamill should be back here next week. Make sure you get your questions into us on Twitter. The handles are here. Patrick Van Straten, what should these people do next?
Head over to 90+1 Facts and check out 90+1 Facts about Zlatan Ibrahimovic, my favourite idiot, narcissist, maniac.
Legend.
And tomorrow, FDFC, myself and James Wayne, the kindest man on Football Daily according to some, have our brand new show coming out, the non-vlog about non-league football. Pretty exciting stuff, actually. We're at the most informed team in the country.
Oh.
Not Man City, so yeah, keep your eyes peeled for that.
Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.